dive into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation.
I would do to hold on to that. That's what she was faced with at just age 19 to 21.
Think about what you're saying.
Nancy, that's no different than any other heterosexual power dynamic relationship. You could say that about doctors, you could say it about lawyers, you could say it about anybody. So I don't know. And to Ebony's point, Stockholm syndrome, I'm not aware.
You didn't even finish that thought. You just went, I don't know, and trailed off.
I haven't seen where anywhere in the indictment anybody's talking about Stockholm syndrome. What they are talking about.
No, I was just citing that, Mark.
Because that's in the indictment. So, why would that be in the indictment?
Well, have you read the indictment? It's pretty detailed. It gives details.
Yes, it is. It is detailed, but you don't have to advance your theories in an indictment.
By the way, the judge instructs a jury. You don't make a decision until you've heard all the evidence. And we haven't heard. We're on witness 3, and 2 of them were relatively small witnesses. So it's a little premature to be coming to the conclusion.
But there's a theme that I've seen so far, because I have seen prosecutors not closing the loop, and I've seen the defense not closing the loop. And let me give you an example that happened on cross-examination that I'm just fascinated by. That there was one exchange, a text exchange, where Diddy texted Cassie, let's do a freak-off. And all she said was, I'm ovulating. To me, that is saying, no, I will not have sexual intercourse. I don't think you need to use the word no. I think that means I am not going to have sex with a sex worker right now. But then he says, well, can we just kiss? And she says, yes. And then they do a freak-off that lasts 10 hours. So I'm thinking, well, what happened during the 10 hours? Did they have intercourse? Because if they did, well, that would kill Diddy, because he's luring her into a situation and then turning it. But they just dropped it, and they never closed the loop. So, number one, I don't understand why they brought that up if it's incomplete. And why are we seeing this 3/4 loop, and neither side is doing the other quarter? That's the way I'm seeing this.
And that's where Nancy's point, though, Harvey, about any woman on that jury that's ever had a menstrual cycle is going to be able to tell you that there is no scenario under God's, beautiful sun in which a reasonable woman is wanting and willing to have that type of sexual experience on her menstrual. It's just not fathomable. And this is maybe one of those things as men, you guys just kind of can't get. But any woman is going to understand this for the coercive nature that it very much is.
Safe like repair, safe like replace.
Sadly, windshield chips can turn into windshield cracks.
We are getting live updates. Let me make sure I'm off. Okay, live updates, right? From Diddy all day long, y'all. Diddy all day. We have been updating y'all on all things updatable to Diddy. Diddy's on his first week first week out of the gate of the Diddy trial. Okay, we've had testimony from the security guard, the escorts, and Cassie's been on the stand for like 20 hours. It's crazy, right? So that's what we're doing. Drop y'all's teacups in the chat. Let me know y'all are in the room with Tanisha Talks Teas. We are keeping it going with the United States versus Diddy. Where are you guys? Like, I'm in the middle of everything. I cannot be pulled either way right now. So I think that right now it's weak for the charges that Diddy's on. I haven't, we're only in the first week, so that's why I'm like where I am standing. I'm not swayed over to any side, prosecution or defense. Of course, if Diddy is found to be credible, or liable for these charges, and Cassie's credible for her testimony, then I hope Diddy gets what he needs, he deserves. And I also don't want an innocent person to go to prison. So I'm in the middle, tea sippers. Where are y'all? Have y'all been swayed to the left, swayed to the right? And where are y'all standing at in the Diddy trial? So far, first we got the gate. I'm just riding with it, y'all. I mean, I don't think it's all that strong. Like I was hoping, like I was telling y'all first day, like Cassie got to come out hitting hard. She got to come out swinging. And I don't know if that, to lock Diddy up. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was the motive for, you know what I'm saying? Cassie testifying against Diddy. Like, I thought that's what it was going to be. But mostly it's like, oh, we were lovey-dovey. So we're back up. We're back up, y'all. Keep your teacups filled up. We got the Cassie Diddy explosive testimony at the Diddy trial.
Something that I have found absolutely true. The harshest critics of women are women jurors. It is uncanny to me, the kind of harsh light that women look at other women who are on the stand, and I'm going to be so bold and maybe betray my age and my generation. They're harshest on good-looking or attractive
Thank
women.
you.
My
Jealous.
experience over the years.
Do you ever get tired of being told you're a misogynist? I'm just curious because first you refer to the prosecution as a six-pack of white women. Now this, you know the mind of a woman.
Do you ever get tired of the prosecutorial screed? And you have never. Is there any point where you just let down and say, maybe we should wait and hear all the evidence? Have you ever said that?
Plenty of times.
Okay, good.
You just weren't listening.
That. Okay, that could be. You were yelling so loud I didn't hear it.
So, Joe,
Harvey, can I just say one thing? Look, Ebony and Nancy make great points. And this isn't easy. Look, Combs is easy to kill right now. Easy. But it is fair game. And anyone who says it's not fair game, as a defense lawyer, we would have to give in our licenses if we didn't say this. There are issues you have to question about Cassie Ventura's testimony. One, she did not report this to law enforcement or anyone at the time of. She never went to the police. Instead, she went to a lawyer and sought money first for a book and then for a civil lawsuit and got $20 million. Never went to law enforcement. That's one. Two, she has tons of messages talking about consent.
Probably hundreds
That's
of
fair
thousands.
game. Three, she claims she was raped. Then after the rape, she went back and had consensual sex. And not only said consensual sex, but had a great time with her rapist. Those are things that just the normal person doesn't really jive with. And that's something that is fair game for, and not only is fair game, it's obligatory for any defense attorney defending their client and the United States Constitution to bring up in a courtroom. It's fair game. So we're not attacking the victim. We're bringing out facts, Ebony, that are just real. She didn't report this to the police. There's consensual evidence all over the place. I mean, she got money. She sought money. She tried to sell a manuscript of a book. Come on, it's fair.
I'm gonna let you finish up. Let me make this one. Listen, you're making great, zealous arguments on behalf of the defense. Counselor, I will give you that. Let me tell you something. I'm dressed up in this beautiful pink suit, yes, for my beautiful panelist and Harvey here tonight, but I'm actually headed to a fundraising gala for an organization called Safe Horizon. I was a board member for 6 years, Joe. Beautiful. It's the largest victim services for...
I know, it's a beautiful organization.
Beautiful organization for victims of domestic violence, child abuse, et cetera, and violence against men, by the way. And what we know, and Nancy knows this being a lifetime prosecutor herself, and many y'all know this too. Victims often of sexual abuse, rape, and trauma
Go
black
back.
out. They don't remember for years. The trauma is so severe that they cannot even muster a memory, a recounting to go to the police, as you so nobly suggested, Joe. So
True,
it's
but
going to be
that's not here.
prosecution.
That's not here.
We don't know if it's not here.
Ebony,
We don't know if it's not here.
Hey,
We don't know that.
Ebony,
I think
to
that
your
they're
point,
right.
Where's the
I
evidence
think
that Casey
that
blacked out?
Takapina and Garagos are right.
Yeah,
I
right.
think they're right in that these are obstacles for the state, because unless the jury gets explained to, like you are doing right now, unless they have maybe an expert to explain it to the jury, why she kept on, she was afraid to lose her career, maybe even her life. I mean, that video says it all. She was being dragged back into a hotel room. She didn't want to go. She took a beating. So why did she stay? They're right. The state has an issue. That doesn't mean they're going to lose their case. That means they've got to explain to the jury like you just were, Ebony.
Thank you, Nancy. I agree with you. They got to they got to earn it. They got to earn it.
When they explain that, and when they make the point that maybe somebody blacked out, and that's true. There's adrenaline rushes, everything else. They're going to also have another hurdle to explain is when you wake up from this blackout experience. Why did you call the money lawyer as opposed to the police? And
it's
so
called the statute of limitations on state cases, Garagos. So you know that. Many of these state cases.
No.
That's not true.
Years passed and she didn't tell anybody.
We get the point, and we get the point, and everybody is kind of agreeing that it's going to be something that the prosecution is going to have to deal with.
Yes.
Nancy, I'm wondering. It's interesting you kind of conceded that point, and it's kind of an obvious one. What about what they're trying to do by saying Cassie was a swinger too? And she acknowledged on the Sandering cross-examination, she used to go to swingers clubs with Diddy, that she would watch as he'd have sex with other women. She talked about that they would freely use drugs during the freak-off. It gave them this incredible high. So they are, in a way, painting her with a brush that the prosecution used on Diddy. And even went to a point of saying she was also violent in a bar fight where she wanted to kill somebody. So is that fair game? Is it appropriate to do in a case like this? Because that's what they did.
Well, as I often say to juries, who do you think Sean Combs is hanging out with? Nuns and priests and virgins? No. Okay? Cassie Ventura, like all of us, is not perfect. And she's probably done things she was ashamed of, things she wished she hadn't done. That does not mean
Cassie
she
lives
cannot
10 lifetimes compared to the rest of our
and
asses.
as to consent, whether she went along with the freak-offs and more because she loved Combs or was afraid, that video shows she was forced back to that hotel room by force. She had knots on her head. She had to call security for help. And however you want to paint that, good luck. Have at it.
You know, Harvey, that's Nancy just gave you the if you sleep with dog, you wake up with fleas analogy. I think that most of these jurors, as most of my experiences, are going to keep their minds open unless they're stealth jurors, which is certainly a possibility. But I think jurors are going to wait and they're going to see. And my experience is in sex crime style cases, and I think even cases where I haven't tried it and somebody else has tried it, you've seen the results, and I could tick them all off. Generally, when it is a relationship, jurors have more trouble than if it is not in a relationship, and that is a hurdle. I mean, that's just as a defense lawyer, I've seen that repeatedly.
Nancy,
I think that's true.
Nancy, I know you have an event, and I don't want to hold you hostage. I'd love to.
My son is in the state championship soccer playoff. Yes.
Okay,
and as much as I'd like to keep whipping Garagos and Takapina's tail with Ebony, I have to go to that. But let me just say, every witness that takes a stand is subjected to a severe cross. And I think the state is going to close the loop, as you refer to it. And I also think that the jury can see through what the defense is doing. As much as Garagos and Takapina may hate it, that video did emerge. It happened, and it corroborates her. I think that is going to turn the day.
Can we at least, guys, agree on one thing? We wish your son good luck.
Probably
and
not.
we hope he wins.
Oh,
Is that okay? Is that okay?
Thank you. Thanks, Harvey.
I don't fight with that. Good luck to him, Nancy. And
Good luck
bye.
to your son.
You know it. Bye, guys.
Thank you,
Bye.
Nancy.
Bye, Nancy.
Okay, we got.
Oh God, it's a shame, Harvey, that Nancy's no longer with us. I was so tired of getting my ass whooped by Nancy. Thank God. Thank God she's not here anymore.
Well, look.
Okay.
I got to ask. I want to ask you guys something because I think the defense has a problem with this. That there is now an unedited version of that 2016 Intercontinental Hotel tape, and I think it is worse. I mean, I've been hearing rumblings that the defense was saying, "Oh, this is better because it's not sped up and he doesn't look as big." I think it's way worse for the defense. Got to warn you, this video just shows terrible brutality. Cassie looks really calm. It doesn't look like she's in some argument over a cell phone. And he just comes out from nowhere and just brutally attacks her. So this video is worse than what, I mean, look at that. She's putting her shoes on or something, and then he just goes crazy on her.
Horrific. Harvey, here's the problem. It is horrific. It's disgusting. Any guy who could do that to a woman has real issues and is not a man, okay? Putting that aside, that is because of the reaction I just had and you just had and undoubtedly a jury just had. That's why the prosecution has played this. How many times already in 3 days? 6, 7, 8, 9 times already? This tape, one tape? What is this evidence of? This is evidence that he's an abuser, that he's a beater, that commits domestic violence, that he's a bully, that he's a coward. All these horrific things about him, okay? But does that fill the void where the evidence of sex trafficking should be? Does that fill the void of racketeering evidence? I don't think it does. And if I'm the
They have other facts for that, Joe. I think they got other facts.
I know,
for that.
so,
I think
okay, great. Other facts, but then why is this being played over and over again? Why? Because it's trying to get the jury to get emotional and get them to want to hate him and convict him because of this tape, which is a domestic violence act, which is a state offense. It's not a federal crime. And this is something that, if I were the defense, I would make sure the jury understood they're being played on here.
No, they're not being played on. It absolutely is domestic violence, which is not at trial on this case. I agree with you, Joe. But you know what it's also evidence of physical abuse, which they are enumerating in the original indictment under count 1 of the racketeering conspiracy count. They absolutely are saying this is a part of his overall mechanism, Joe, of control, of his absolute domain over this woman and some of these other victims. And when the jury sees like Harvey says, he's coming out like a madman. This woman is calmly trying to exit and go about her business. She doesn't even have on shoes, for God's sake. And this is how deranged, how depraved, how angered he is. And that, I think, goes a long way. If he can be this controlling here, why can't they believe he could be so controlling in other parts of their factual case?
So, Ebony,
it's nothing more than character assassination. I hate to say it. Joe nailed it, and it is what it is. And I suppose if you're a prosecutor, you have something like this, you're just going to play it every chance you get. But remember, Harvey and I are old enough to remember Rodney King.
Oh my God, I was just going to mention that. I was literally just going to mention that. Go.
Yeah.
Go.
Talk about Rodney King.
Well, no, I want to.
In the Rodney King case, and it was in Simi Valley, and I was thinking about it this week because same judge presided over the Menendez trials.
Stanley Weisberg.
Yeah. Stanley Weisberg. And he let the prosecutors in that case just repeatedly play the Rodney King tape.
We are becoming the same person. What is going on? I was literally going to say, because it diminishes the impact of it. You know, Mark's going to love this because I always tell him, don't do law lessons. But Melvin Belli, an old lawyer, very famous lawyer, he really developed the concept of demonstrative evidence. And what he did was there was a case where a man lost his leg, I think in a car accident. And the guy sat in court with a pant leg that went down to his shoes. And you never saw the leg. And he got up on the stand and he testified. At one point, Melvin Belli had his client step down, and in front of the jury, he showed them the stump, and they were horrified. And he put the pants down and never showed it again. And the jury, the impact on the jury was huge. And this is one of the things that created demonstrative evidence. I saw this in Rodney King, that they played it so much, and the media played it so much in the year before
You
the
got
trial.
used to it.
It didn't have the impact by the time it got to court. And I'm wondering, Ebony, that the prosecutor, by playing it over and over and over, are you diminishing the impact than if you just saw it once or twice?
Here's what's different with Rodney King and that example. Very compelling, by the way, Harvey, example of the gentleman with the one leg. Number one, though Sean Combs is not a private citizen that this jury is just seeing for the first time. So much of what the prosecution's assignment here is to deconstruct. They've got to literally deconstruct, for many of these jurors, 30, 40, 50 years of knowing Sean Combs as a hero. You guys culturally got to understand what this man means to some of these jurors who have grown up not only on his music, guys, but on his cultural influence, on his ability to be a black man in America and make good on the mouth and savvy. See, that's a lot of narrative to overcome. So personally, if I was prosecuting this case, I wouldn't have shown the video this many times. I'm conceding that. And also, I do see where they've got a very large narrative to overcome to make who, for many on that jury, not all, but
Okay. Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Welcome, sippers. Welcome. I hadn't put my stream. So anyway, hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday afternoon. I am having a great day so far. Things are rolling into the second week of the Diddy trial. Sorry I couldn't be here yesterday. I had some important things to do, but I came live last night and we sipped some tea from Nottoway station burning, and also the New Orleans jail convicted prisoners that should have been transported to prison break, right? So we got into all things of that. So I have been giving y'all all the tea. And I thank you guys for supporting me. So definitely I'm going to share my screen and start Sean Diddy trial. Start it up. Let's get into it.
Far this week and what's ahead. So yesterday, Chris, we heard from some former friends of Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, including one friend, Carrie Morgan. You say her testimony was the most important of the trial so far.
Yes, Carrie testified that she was her best friend and told her, you need to get out of this relationship. You need to leave.
Okay, so have we already had testimony? See, like I said yesterday, guys, I was busy with my own matters of affairs, okay? But I will go live as much as I possibly can to keep all of the sippers up to date with what's going on with Diddy's trial. So we had the best friend. I knew she was going to be testifying, right? I just don't know when. Now we know. Did she testify yesterday? Okay, we got to get into all things Miss Carey's testimony.
She said, I can't. He controls my career, my apartment, my car, everything, and I cannot leave. That ties everything together so far for the government. It brings her to the point where she can't get out. She's stuck in this relationship, and it ties, so it brings into everything in that the government needed and ties that all together with the trafficking. So it's what the government needed to tie their case together so far.
A lot of the testimony has focused on violence, and the defense has repeatedly said, he's not on trial for being a domestic abuser, but violence is still important to show because that could go toward the force and coercion aspect of a sex trafficking charge, right?
Yes, and that's why I think Carey Morgan's testimony was so impactful yesterday to that element that they're trying to bring that in together, that she was stuck here. It's not that this was just now, not just that he's a violent person, it's that she was trapped in this as a prisoner, if you will, in this relationship that she couldn't get out of. That, I think, was the most important part of her testimony.
And one of them even testified, I think it was Carey Morgan, that she was assaulted by Combs and paid $30,000. And discrepancy over, was that Combs' money? Did Cassie Ventura give her that money?
So I think it's no doubt it was Combs' money, but the key to that was Combs assaulted her with a chair or a coat hanger or something, but it was Ventura that went to her.
That is called gorilla pimping, okay? That is called gorilla pimping. Let me open up the chat, sit first, so I can see who's here and who's dropping those teacups, okay? Remember to drop your teacups. When you come get your teacup filled up, please remember to like and subscribe, okay? When a guy, hits you with something of like a coat hanger, it leaves something like a whelp on you as if you have been burned, right? It like whelps up almost like a burn. So in the streets, they call that gorilla pimping on a girl. Okay, so if he beat her with a hammer, he was up in that day. He thought he was in his gorilla pimping shit.
With a non-disclosure agreement, offered her the $30,000 in exchange for signing a non-disclosure agreement. Now that really, I think, bodes well for the defense, because it wasn't Combs' attorney that went to her. It was Ventura that went to her and said, hey, here's $30,000, sign this non-disclosure agreement. You can't talk about this anymore. So that really that helps the defense more than it helps the prosecution.
We also expect the assistant to Combs, this man, David James, to continue testifying today. And then we're also expecting to hear from Cassie Ventura's mother. What might she do to help the prosecution, and what might help the defense with her testimony?
So just looking ahead, I think that you're going to hear her mother testify that she had talked with her about what was going on, that she was aware of the abuse and the fact that Combs had her trapped, if you will, in this relationship that she couldn't get out of. She's got this huge record deal that she signed with his company, and he was holding that over her head. She couldn't get out of the relationship. On cross, I think you're going to see a little bit more pushback on cross with her, a little bit more aggression on cross. You knew this was going on, yet you didn't do anything. You're her mother. So why didn't you go in there with the police? Why didn't you get lawyers? Why didn't you do the things necessary as a mother to get her out of this situation?
Those are all questions we've been asking.
Why didn't you go charging over there with the police and do something about this? And yet you didn't, because you liked the money. And that, I think, is going to be a pretty stern cross-examination.
That is exactly what I speculated. The reason why Cassie's mother never entered the group chat up until now that we are aware of is because she was also in like a Tina Turner situation, right? Where if you guys seen the movie with Angela Bassett as she played the Tina Turner character, Tina Turner's mother was, very intrigued and involved with the fame, the money, the homes, the cars, the coast, the jewelry, the trips, things like that, right? She's like, just let him be a man. He ain't doing nothing but being a man. Let him be a man, girl. You do what you need to do. Keep on keeping on up with this lifestyle. Okay, so like Tina Turner's mother, she was intrigued and moved by the money.
At some point, we should hear from some sort of a psychologist too, probably, right? That the prosecution will bring in and just to detail, what happens in the minds of alleged victims of sex trafficking.
There's going to have to be an expert that the government's going to bring in. It's going to have to say, this is what happens when you're a victim like this that's trapped in this relationship that feels they cannot get out. And to tie this together for the jury, because a lot of people are thinking and just naturally thinking, if this is that bad, you just get up and go. And you've already heard several times, even in her cross-examination, that she made the conscious choice to go to this freak-off. Well, if you're trapped in a relationship, you don't decide, I'm going over there. If it's that bad, I'm just not going over there. And so it's hard for a juror, an average person, to say, I'm going to go over there and engage in this. If you need that expert to explain that to you.
Okay, Chris Whitaco, our senior.
Okay, that is exactly what we needed to get the day started, all right? So, as we were saying last week, right, Sippers, that we were looking for the prosecution to bring in a psychologist, right? Psychiatrist, somebody to explain more of what this Stockholm syndrome would look like in Cassie's case, perhaps, okay? So now we're going to get into who testified. They said Carrie. Okay, Carrie testified in the Diddy trial. Let's go ahead and look at some tea on that, okay? Ooh. Her name is Carrie Morgan. She's a Caucasian woman alleged to be Cassie.
We're monitoring testimony in the federal courtroom in the Sean Diddy Combs trafficking trial. No cameras inside of that courtroom, but on the stand this afternoon is Carrie Morgan, a former best friend of Cassie Ventura, who testified all last week. Morgan says she saw Combs assault Cassie Ventura several times, and someone who's been keeping us updated there on the ground is our Court TV legal correspondent, Kelly.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay dipping.